At the Economic Development Forum that we had recently for the Northwest Chamber of Commerce, we had this FBI speaker who talked about cybercrime. Now, cybercrime is something that is rampant to degrees that none of us really understand. Many people have passwords that's Larry 123, or maybe their birthday, or all those highly secret things, right? And it's because of that that they get in trouble. So when I heard James Morrison speak from the FBI at that meeting, I knew we needed a bigger dose to learn, both from our businesses and from our personal views. How do we take care of ourselves? How do we protect ourselves so that we don't have to worry as much about our cybersecurity? So will you please welcome James Morrison from the FBI.
First off, I always have to start off, I'm not an agent. I'm not a gunslinger, all right? I'm not a cop. So first responders, you have my respect. I am a computer guy. That's my whole background. Larry was saying, he was going to do my bio and he couldn't find it. I was like, so I'll give you the way I do my bio. As I said, I'm a computer scientist. I'm a gamer. I'm Ugly Mother. That's who I am in the gaming world. All right, I play every game platform covertly and overtly. We live out there. I mean, when they gave me this job, I was like, I hit the honeypot, because that's really where I started. 1980 was my first computer. 1980. Timex Sinclair was one of the first PCs that came out, and it had 2K of RAM. Oh, here comes the rain.
No rain.
So 36 years, that's not that long ago. I mean, really, from my parlance, I kind of sit there and go, that's not that long ago. But I taught myself how to program in those years. Back in the 80s, there weren't a whole lot of places to learn how to program. You picked out, you sat in front of a computer, and you typed in commands. And you may have been lucky enough to have a little cheat sheet. There was no internet to search. There were no bulletin boards even to look at. You taught yourself. So I've been in this a long time, and I've been in the Bureau now for almost 19 years. And I was lucky enough, even before that, to be in the Air Force in the communications fields in what I call the pre-internet. For those of you that know, the internet started off as a military contract, the DARPANet, Defense Analysis Research Project. And it was a survivability in warfare. That's really what it was. It was the same as the interstate program. The way the interstates were paid for by the federal government was survivability for a nuclear war. And so the internet came around as the same thing, survivability in a nuclear war or a catastrophic loss of one node you could survive. So I was cool enough to be able to be one of those people that was maintaining the internet before it was the internet. So not to get political, but Gore did not create the internet, okay? And every politician will make that claim. I'm not a political person. This is my worst time of year. One thing that's cool about being a government employee is I'm not allowed to be too political, and so I'm not. And so we'll talk about social media. I will defriend more people this year in an election year than I will any time in my lifetime, because people get absolutely crazy about their candidates, whatever your candidate is. So moving forward on that, I'm always going to school, and that's one thing I'll encourage you. If you're into computers, we are always going to school. I did 14 weeks of training last year, and I'm a senior computer scientist, but I still go to school. I actually was just named I'm now an instructor for new computer scientists. So I was back in, when the Economic Development Conference came, it was April 1st, and I literally flew back in at 9:30 that morning to get to an 11 o'clock meeting for that conference because I was coming down to Quantico. So I mean, that's part of where I'm going as well, is I have a heart for training. I live way southwest. So when this happened up here, I was like, oh, northwest. I live out in Pleat, Texas. Many of you know where that is at. The person across the street from me is a retired Sugar Land police officer from 44 years. And I was sitting down having a beer with him, and we had a conversation. This is actually for y'all law enforcement. And he said, what do y'all have for training, for basic computer crimes training from a federal perspective to local law enforcement? I said, that's a great question. And so I asked my bosses, where is it? They said, well, we'll fly people back to headquarters for that training. I said, that's not the answer. So I'm currently working on a one-day basic computer crimes training class in Houston for law enforcement. So when that occurs, I'll be probably coming back to you at that point. Because the other thing is I want to offer a one-day and I want to offer a 3-day. And because some of the very small law enforcement agencies don't have the access to Houston police being right next door. And for the Houston area of responsibility, we cover all the way from the border, Louisiana border, we get up to Bryan College Station, all the way down to just short of Brownsville. And out west towards, we split somewhere between us and San Antonio, Cass Sealy. So how do we offer the training? Because the big part of where the Bureau wants to be is outreach. All right? If you have an experience with the Bureau years ago, when I came in 19 years ago, the Bureau didn't do a lot of outreach. The Bureau was a very closed, society. We did our thing. We lived in our little brass, in our little ivory tower, and we told the local law enforcement how it worked. And that's different. The new director is big about this. All right? We have a new director in the Bureau about 2 years ago. Director Comey took over. He wants us to get out to the public. He wants us to get out and talk to local law enforcement and be a force enhancer for you as well. So I hope it's a good change. I'm a decent point of contact for it, because if I don't know your answers, I'll get you the answers, but let's move forward. I love Carl Sagan. I love his quotes, because Carl Sagan was a lot like in the years before Isaac Asimov, or H.G. Wells, or nowadays we look at, guy in a wheelchair, sorry, Hawking. These are people that their minds are thinking to the next generation of IT. I was a big Star Trek, Star Wars fan, and I loved communicators. Where are we now? Everybody laughed at communicators in 1970, right? When they came, they'll pop the flip tops. We've moved past communicators. Flip phones are dead, right? And we're here. But what's very impressive about this, though, is that how much technology do you hold in your hands? I talk at Johnson Space Center all the time. Talk to the contractors down there. You hold more technology in your hands in a smartphone than what we used to put a man on the moon. More than what we used to build the first atomic weapons. There's more processing power right here. But do we treat it like a computer? No, because what do we call it? A phone. You know why we do that? Marketing. Years ago, Sony came out with a handheld computer and it died. Nobody wanted a handheld computer. A couple years later, they called it a smartphone and everybody loved it. So it's a lot about marketing. We have to realize how marketing is treating what we do on a daily basis. Because last year, we saw for the first time, desktops are now not the major sellers. Desktop computers are being outsold by laptops, and laptops have peaked. Tablets and cell phones are moving ahead of laptops and desktop computers. So I'm foreseeing in the next 5 to 8 years, that will be your primary computer will be in your phone. There are no virus scan softwares, no good virus detection software for a phone right now. So you are going to be the one who's responsible for security. So we'll go through that too. I don't have to beat on you too much to tell you about how much cybercrime is going. I live in this world. I mean, this is what I do on a daily basis. And people laugh, but I sit in front of between 8 and 10 computers every day. I get to come out and talk, and that's when I don't sit in front of a computer, which is kind of cool. I did about 45 of these presentations last year. And this year, I think I might increase that number. It's going up. The requests are going up. That's okay. I'm good with that. I mean, I get paid either way. I'm not cynical about it, but I'm willing to come out and have these conversations. But cyber attacks are not going to go away. And if you think cyber attacks are not going to be directed at you in your home, you are absolutely wrong. All right? We see a ton of attacks directed just at you at home. And if you click on a link at home and you have a virus, you probably don't even know it. I'm right now working in a project where I get a feed of infected computers in the Houston area of responsibility. Right now, my list is over 9,000 computers infected, and I cannot notify the people because they are on internet providers. How do I get that information to you? You're at Comcast. Let's say you're on Comcast, you're on AT&T. AT&T and Comcast will not tell me that you are a customer at this IP address. I get it. That's your privacy. But how do I get my information to you to say, hey, you're infected, clean it up? Because a lot of it's just ignorance. So I'm working, that's a project I'm also working, is how do we get a good flow of information? I don't care, this is gonna sound bad, please. I don't care if something bad is going on right now on AT&T's network. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to clean up internet traffic. All right, and that's a huge part of where we are is I'm not opening cases. I'm not trying to find the bad people out there. I'll find you. I'll find you eventually. or the cops will find you or whatever. But we gotta get over this, well, don't talk to the FBI. We've got to really get past some of that because we have resources you don't have. We see a lot of feeds from NSA, CIA. We have access to these secret and top secret feeds you don't have access to, which gives us an opportunity to help you. If your company gets hit, we'll talk a little about companies. If your company gets hit, what are you going to do with it? Most of you are going to contact your local IT person. A lot of small businesses don't even have an IT person on staff. They'll contact a company that may come in and help them clean up. But who do you go to? Well, that's a lot of what we got to do. Is we got to get to this point of how do we start tracking the data? We'll go through that too. Actors. 5 years ago, 8 years ago, it was Russia and China. That's all we ever talked about international hackers. Iran entered the game about 3 to 5 years ago, and people started talking about Iran. What I'm here to do now, and I actually changed my slides about a year ago, is I'm telling you every country in the world now has the cyber attack capability. Every country. We see attacks from Brazil, we see attacks from Israel, France, Germany. There are no friends in the cyber world, please. Don't think there's any friends at that point. If your company has something somebody wants, and I'm going to tell you also, every one of you has something somebody wants, you may get attacked. How are you going to know that? How are you, so I call a company sometimes. I actually, right now, I have a call into the Aldine ISD IT department because they have 2 of their servers infected and they won't call me back. What do I do? So this is, and I'm like, I will come to you because I understand people are afraid it's a scam. I will come to you and we'll play the badge flipping game and I'll pull cards out and we'll meet. I drive all over the place. I put 22,000 miles on my car last year. Driving all over, God's creation. But that's my job. And I'm accepting of that. I drive down to Corpus, I'm actually up at Bryant College Station once a month. So that's part of the responsibility we have, and I'm willing to accept that. But you have a responsibility as well. If somebody calls you from the FBI and says, hey, I'm James Morrison from the FBI, don't just think it's a joke and don't just brush it off. There is something nasty on your network and I'm trying to tell you about it. Call the FBI, ask for me by name. If you ever get a phone call from the FBI and you think it's a Josh, you'll be playing a trick, call your local FBI office and ask for that person by name. That is your right, okay? Please don't, and we will respond. I carry another digital leash with my work phone. That thing goes off all the time. But that's what we're doing. So that's part of it. International. Most of what you're going to see from an international is going to be a criminal group. About 90% of the criminal groups we see are operating out of Eastern Europe. We see a ton of that right now. A lot of the ransomware stuff you're seeing, and we'll talk about ransomware, a lot of the phishing where they're trying to just get your credit card information is coming out of criminal groups from Eastern Europe. I was talking to a professor from Romania, and she goes, I can't stop these kids from wanting to be hackers. Because in Romania, unemployment's high, and guess how they're going to get out of Romania? They don't have basketball teams, they don't have soccer like in maybe Central or South America, they aspire to be hackers. The target hack was written by a 17-year-old kid in the Ukraine. All right? These kids are smart. One slide I sometimes pull up is War Games. War Games came out about '83, and I love the movie. If you remember the movie War Games, it's Matthew Broderick, and he lives with his parents, and he has this computer, and he's remotely logging in, dialing up to different computers, trying to log in, and he's the hacker. We have this vision of a hacker. That's wrong. Hackers are a full-time job. They go to work just like you do. We know for a fact the Chinese government has 100,000 hackers in their employment. Think about that. 100,000 hackers working for the Chinese government to break into corporations in the United States. And they are going 24/7. We've watched the traffic coming out of their networks, and you can see it. It's like shift work. They go off shift and the traffic drops off, and the shift change goes up, and then 4 hours later it's a lunch break, and they go. And the Chinese are a very regimented society, and 4 hours later they go to lunch, or dinner, or whatever it is, and then the traffic picks up. So understand that's kind of what you're dealing with. A lot of what I'm going to tell you today is just to make you a harder target. I can't make you not a target, but I want to make you at least a harder target. We're going to find some ways to make you less likely to get hit. Because one thing that's kind of cool about some of these hackers, they figure if they don't get you, they're going to get the next person. They will move on. This is also really big when you start seeing the spam emails go out. We know these spam emails go out 1 million at a time, billion at a time. They send a big flood out, and they're just going to see who clicks on the link. Don't be that person. All right. The other thing is domestic. We know we have criminal groups in domestic, in U.S. This is kind of increasing right now. We're starting to see a few more hacker groups pop up in the United States. But what's kind of interesting is, you know what stops a lot of them? The FBI and groups like Microsoft. We will jump on a homegrown hacker group really quick. We love that. We wait for that because we get frustrated dealing with the international groups. It's very frustrating dealing with them because you know I can't arrest them. But don't think that doesn't mean don't report the crime. One thing that's kind of cool about criminal enterprises, why would people steal your credit card information? What's the main reason? Money, right? So if I make money, what do I want to do with my money? Spend it. What's kind of cool about criminals is they want to spend money, which means they want to travel, which means eventually they want to leave where they're at. We have rolled up a fair number of the criminal guys because they go on a vacation. And just so happened we find out that they're on vacation. One particular guy had the bad luck of going to the Dominican Republic. And we have a pretty good relationship with the police in the Dominican Republic. So we detained him in customs. Actually, Dominican Republic police detained him in customs, so he missed his flight. The next flight out just happened to come through Atlanta. Oops. He took it. And when the plane landed in Atlanta, we were waiting for him. So we will play that game with a lot of these guys as well. So we do roll up some of the criminals, so please understand that. The problem with domestic also is the hacktivists. The main one you'll think about is anonymous. Anonymous, you can find yourself a target of anonymous for a reason you have no idea. Hospitals often find themselves attacked by anonymous because they've made a stand, a policy stand. So right now, Target has made a stand concerning the transgender issue. And a lot of people have come out against it. We expect Anonymous to go, if a company comes out against Target, we expect Anonymous to go after that company. Because that's kind of what Anonymous does, is they will pick up a social issue and then make that company a target. We saw it a little bit with Chick-fil-A. They went after Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A made some statements about gay marriage. Waller County Police Department is getting hit right now because of the death of Sandra Bland. Okay? Because they feel there was a cover-up. So they're digging through their network trying to figure out if there was a cover-up. What happened in Ferguson? Anonymous hit Ferguson police. What were they trying to do there? They were trying to reveal the name of the police officer that shot and killed Mr. Brown. How many times did they get it wrong? About 4 times. But you know what the lives of those police officers were for those each time they announced their name? They got death threats. Their families were threatened. They had people protesting outside their house. So that's kind of where Anonymous is not, they're not the best hackers in the world, don't get me wrong. There are some very good ones in their structure, but everybody wants to be a part of Anonymous. So every so often we'll pick up some hacker boy, some kid who'll be like, oh, and you're like, oh, what do you do? He goes, I'm a member of Anonymous. Well, the first thing about Anonymous is it's like Fight Club. You don't say you're part of the Anonymous. So we're like, yeah, right, you're part of Anonymous, you know. It's kind of like the gang on the world, everybody wants to be part of it. Insider threat's the last one. If you have a company, I'm telling you, you have a possible insider threat in that company. Every one of you. One report I read last year said 10% of people's passwords are I hate this effing place. That is their password, that they log into your network every day. So they are being reminded on a daily basis they hate you and they hate this place of employment. I mean, seriously, you got to think about that. They are reinforcing their behavior because every time they type it. All right? So that is an insider threat. Oil and gas right now with layoffs. Layoffs create an insider threat. I had one oil and gas company and they announced on Wednesday who they were going to lay off on Friday. Stupid. These people are now know they're out of a job and they're upset sitting in front of their computer terminal. That's a bad recipe. The other problem with insiders is how quickly, when somebody gets fired, how quickly do you take away their rights in your network? You know what's going to cause the biggest problem with that? Phones. If you have a policy right now that you have bring your own phone to work day, BYOD is what they call it, bring your own data, or you are providing them a phone, they are downloading corporate information onto their phone. How are you ensuring that that data is gone when they are gone? This is a huge problem right now in this BYOD environment. How are you managing it? I actually just did a online presentation for a company out of New York City, Slashdot.media, talking specifically about mobile security. How are you guaranteeing that? Because they will. If you fire a person especially, and they have data on their phone, they will take that data and they will run to a competitor. We've seen it. So be aware of that, please. All right, so personal threats. Social media, we'll talk about that. Phishing ransomware, email, phishing ransomware, Wi-Fi, public, private, and mobile devices. That's kind of our thing. Phishing. This is also known as spear phishing. Spear phishing is usually targeted. So let's say you work for a particular company. We see some attackers, if they want to get access to like Chevron, they will go into LinkedIn and they will do a search in LinkedIn for every person who has Chevron listed as their business. And every one of those people will receive an email specifically targeting those employees. So we don't tell people, don't go on LinkedIn, that's not the answer, but just be aware of the connections you establish on LinkedIn that they can be used as an attack surface. We'll talk about that a little bit too. Whaling. Whaling is when I'm going for the big one. CEOs, executives. I'm going after, presidents, chiefs of police. We've seen those. Where I'm going for the big dog because a lot of times CEOs in a certain network have the access to everything in that network. If a CEO comes to your IT manager and says, I want access to everything, you think they're going to say no? No. Hansen. Do you remember the Hansen FBI spy a couple years ago? He was a supervisory special agent. He went to the IT guy and said, I need access to extra things. Or I'm going to make sure your life is hell. And he gave it to him. But he was spying on the FBI and he used that additional access to commit crimes. So what policies in place for if you've got that dictatorial CEO that wants to come and tell people what to do? You've got to be aware that if they get hit, you're in trouble. We also have CEOs out there that don't answer their own email. When I first came in the bureau, we were given computers, and I took one to our special agent in charge, which is like our CEO. And I put the computer on his desk, and I went to go get some cables, and I came back, and it was outside of his office. And I was like, I need to give you a computer. He goes, I don't need a computer. I said, what about email? My secretary prints out my emails. Well, first of all, from an electronic, whatever, I'm like, electronic mail just became paper mail. That was one thing. But the second thing is that means that the secretary is now answering every email. So case in point. We had a company here in Houston where they got hit with the virus. And it was a nasty virus and kind of ripped through the network. And once we were kind of able to help get containment, we did some tracking back and we tracked it back to a secretary for a CEO. So we got an image of the computer, and this was just sort of looking at it. And in the email, there was a folder that said infected, and it was open. And under there was an email that said big asterisk infected, and then an email FedEx delivery, and it had been opened. So we asked the secretary, I said, did you have a folder there infected? She goes, yes. Did you? And it had a little, so you saw the bolded one, so you knew there was an open email inside of that folder. She goes, yeah. So I double clicked on it, got a warning, ignored the warning. You got the email, you double clicked on it, yeah. Got a warning, ignored the warning. Why? She goes, because my job is to check emails from my boss. And I'll get fired if I don't check emails from my boss. So we got to think about that from a security standpoint. Somebody did a really good job of training this lady what her job was, and she was terrified of losing her job, but security really didn't do a good job of overriding that programming. So we also have to understand that within is that there's people operating in your network where they feel they have to make a choice between my job and security and safety. And what choice will they make? All right. So I have some sympathy for that, but that's a huge consideration as we go forward. So whaling, phishing. This is one you all probably encountered. The email, the voice call. Yes, this is James Morrison calling from the FBI. You're in trouble, and if you don't pay $500 right now, we are going to come arrest you. People fall for this. My sister-in-law fell for this, And I was like, what? They create that stress on you right now that says you have an unpaid bill, pay this bill or you're going to jail. And that's all part of it. Now, I'm not, if any of you are salesmen, I'm not meaning to, to disparage, but salesmen, there's some of those people that used to come to your house and sell things to you. I'll say Encyclopedia Britannica salesman used to be that way. This is the most important purchase in your life. I can't leave till you buy it. And they try to increase that stress. That's what that voice call is about. Hang it up. Seriously. Tell everybody you know, just hang it up. We have older people that fall for this quite often. All right. I've done some presentations at some of the older groups here in town. Phishing, SMS phishing. This is kind of new and kind of cute, but we're all getting it too. Have you got the little text message that says your name maybe, and then has a little link? Don't click on it. If you get just that random SMS message, don't click on anything in it. If it tells you you're won $1 million, you didn't. All right? It's all about trying to get you to fall for, oh, I'm rich all of a sudden. How many of you have a rich Nigerian prince that you're related to? Yeah, cool.
We all do.
We all do. Yeah, or that person that that's traveling. This is kind of an interesting one because I've seen that hit right on target. Oh, your friend, blah, 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 is in England and they're in trouble, send money. And you have to think about it a second. And we have this thing about not calling. Call or text them. I mean, if it's that close of a friend, if they're asking for money, why not make some contact, make some personal contact, I mean, that's a huge part of it is don't be afraid to reach across that boundary, right? This is a newer one too. This is domain twisting. The best example I can use is that any person can go out and register a domain name. So if your domain is receiver.com, that is your company's domain name, I can go out and I can register for a very low fee receiver with 2i's.com and start sending emails to people in your business. 90% of people don't check the domain name of who they're getting an email from. This is often coupled with a little bit of reconnaissance through LinkedIn. Wells Fargo is a very common one we see with this. Because I can go out and register we11sfargo.com and the font that we all use for email, the 1 appears like an L. And you just fall for it. That's why sometimes you'll get those emails that says wells.com, and you're like, oh, it's from my bank, but you're not paying attention to that domain name, you might fall for it. Be very careful of the domain name. And I've talked about, there's some ways from an IT standpoint you can protect yourself on this, but just be aware that this is domain twisting, yeah.
I always check that and I look at the name. I get a lot that look like they're spam and they're .eu.
Yes,
Is that
so that's
Europe?
Yep, yeah, it's the European Union.
Those are
Yep.
spams.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the other thing is that we've seen Wells Fargo, perfect, wellsfargo.com.tr. Oh, well maybe it's still Wells Fargo in Turkey, that is a separate domain. Every edition makes it a different name. Seriously. Banks are not going to text you anymore, email you anymore and ask for your passwords and those, they're not going to do it. They're going to say, go to their website, you have a document in their folder. Banks are not operating that way anymore. Most of your businesses are not. And if any of you are in that business, like where you send out those emails, you should never send links and emails anymore. Just don't at this point. Because I'll tell you what my thing is, and we'll talk about later, is don't click on any links in email. Just don't. I mean, I don't care if it's sent from a brother or a sister. Don't. We have to get to the point where we just don't trust email. Especially when it comes down to, open this email, open this picture. So I'll tell you some stories about that too. Because now what we've gotten to is that now people have realized that people are clicking, and if I can get you to click, I can encrypt your hard drive and make you have to pay money to get your data back. That's the next iteration of you clicking too much. Companies in general test, they do spam tests. They'll do phishing tests. Every company that does it reports about 20% of people will click on the links. No matter how much even bad emails, you still see about 15 to 20% of people click on the link. We love just clicking. We do, we don't stop. And some people figure it's not my network, I don't care. Or they figure, what's the worst that can happen, right? Click. Well, you're getting ready to find out. Because with ransomware, you'll click on a link and nothing will happen. Huh. If you're a little IT savvy, you'll look down and you'll see your hard drive light flashing. wonder what's going on, you know? And then all of a sudden your computer will reboot. It's very common. You reboot and a little screen will pop up and it'll say, your computer is now encrypted. You cannot access any of your data. If you call this number, give us $500, we will unencrypt your hard drive. You call the FBI and we're like, that's really bad. Pay the money. That's gonna be our advice. It's not worthwhile enough financially to sit there and try to de-encrypt a drive for $500. If we can even do it. A lot of these encryptions are so, they're so, heavy, it takes years to break the encryption. You're gonna be more likely to pay the fine. There are some defenses though, we'll talk a little bit about those defenses, all right? The main defense is, don't keep any files on your hard drive that are important. Buy an external hard drive. A little USB, external, Western Digital makes them, most of the companies make them now. A little external hard drive that you plug into your USB. You copy all of your files there, but unplug it when you're done. If you leave that drive plugged in and you get hit with ransomware, it will get encrypted as well. Also, cloud drives. If you log into, let's say you have an Apple drive. If you log into your Apple drive automatically when you power into Windows, and you are logged into it when you get hit with ransomware, it'll probably be encrypted as well. Do not automatically log into your cloud drives either. Do them only when you need to log into them, when you want to back your stuff up. Yeah.
What about if you're like backing up on Carbonite?
Back it up and then disconnect from Carbonite. So that's what we're saying is do your transfer and then disconnect from Carbonite after your transfer.
We shouldn't automatically do it at midnight or something.
You know what? You can, but just don't be connected to it all the time. That's kind of my point. If you leave your computer on overnight, which there's things with that. If you leave your computer to do its backups overnight, as long as nobody's actively clicking while it's doing that, you're probably not going to catch a ransomware.
Well, that's when some of our computers back up. They automatically back up to Carbonite and the server.
Yeah,
all backs up.
That's fine.
At night.
Again, if you have like a permanent connection and your computers are always on, you're probably okay. The biggest problem will be is usually who has the rights to write to that Carbonite drive. In your network, is there a system administrator who has those rights?
Yes.
Then be very careful with your system administrators. Because what we've seen is some system administrators get caught with ransomware. Now what happens? Every drive they have access to gets encrypted. We had one poor sap, and I don't know what he was doing, and I don't want to know, but he was on the file server doing email while doing some file server work. And he got hit with ransomware while he was logged into the file server as an administrator. It encrypted the entire file server. Everybody's H drives, all of the network drives were encrypted. And it said pay $1,000. I was like, you pay that $1,000 pretty quick. Because the other thing we're starting to see with ransomware, they're giving you a time limit or they'll destroy the drive. They'll say do it within 48 hours or we'll destroy your data. So they're starting to try to put some of that pressure on you, a little used car salesman thing going.
Are you not able to track where the payments are going? As
Yes,
FBI?
we are. We can. And I know we'll get to that a little bit too. Let me explain that. Well, I got a question back here too. And I'll get back to that one.
How effective are McAfee and Norton in this sort of thing?
We'll talk a little about virus scan here in a little bit too. I'll tell you where we're at. Here's the thing. Here's the problem with the transfers. You pay the $500. Look, we have some places where they say pay it in iTunes cards. So you're paying it through a third-party processor. We have to go get a subpoena because Apple's not going to give us that data for free, or a bank's not giving us that data for free. By the time we get through the federal courts and get a subpoena, it's gone. The account's closed. We see a lot of the fly-by-night accounts. I had one case. It's actually pretty impressive. A company lost $150,000, was transferred to a Singapore bank in a fraudulent wire transfer. Their attorney, she was absolutely, she was like Superwoman, man. She had a stop order on that bank account within like 24 hours and froze the account because she knew it took about 3 days for it to clear over there. And she had a freeze on that account within 24 hours. They got an email, the bank got an email from a Lithuanian businessman saying that was his account. We are investigating this Lithuanian businessman, and the problem is it's not a real name. That's our problem, is that especially overseas, here we have a little bit more rules of how to create, account. I got to produce a social security card, I got to produce some proofs of who I am. That is completely not the case overseas. And that's our problem, is that almost all of these, as a matter of fact, I will say 100% of this ransomware is overseas. The banks at least are.
Do they have a time limit to where they can come back in, let's say, a year and say, hey, we need another $1,000?
Well, they'll give you a key and it'll unlock your hard drive. So they will give you the key. What's kind of interesting is that a lot of the criminal organizations have backed themselves into a corner. If they do not provide you a key, nobody will ever pay the ransom again.
Right. But
So they will provide you a key. It'll unlock your drive. You'll have your data. The first thing you need to do is get your good data off there and reformat your drive. Seriously. Get up there and reload your computer. Because there's always that possibility. The virus that installed it is still there somewhere. So yeah, reload your computer. As soon as you get your data back, don't sit there and say, oh, I'm good. You know, and then start this walk down because they can do it again. We had one poor sap, he got hit with a ransomware, paid $1,000, got back on, started checking his email and hit a second one within 24 hours. Double virus ransomware.
Is it the answer to really mirror your system so you have two copies of it somewhere?
Well, that's the other possibility is in a good technical environment, there, you know, if you have good text, you can, the other thing is you can pixie boot. You can do a boot where your computers reload anyways. So you're not allowed to copy or save anything to your local hard drive, especially in a corporate environment or in a home environment. You can have it where you're not writing anything to the local drive anyways. It's all being written into somewhere else that you don't even have really rights to. There's some ways to do it technically as well. You can mirror your system. You can have your system so that, but these are some a little higher tech environments. You need to have some people with IT knowledge. So there are some ransomwares. For you at home, the most effective way, the easiest way at home is going to be a USB hard drive that you unplug. Go a little further with it though. So you have this USB hard drive. When you unplug it, where do you put it?
10 feet away.
10 feet away and in a fireproof safe that's closed. We've seen some cases where people have the USB drives and they put them too close to the problem, but they put them in a fireproof safe, never closed it, and the fire came. Guess what? Fireproof safe not closed as a chimney. All right? That's all you've done is create a cute little chimney made with concrete. You got to use the fireproof safe and lock it up. So phishing avoidance. Look out for the emails that are urgent. First of all, the Bureau will never contact you via email. I can guarantee you, us and the IRS will never contact you via email and say you're in trouble. You will get two guys dressed up in suits like this with a bulge at their hip that are going to come to your door. That's the way the Bureau still operates. We do not notify, we don't even call you and tell you you're in trouble. We say, hey, this is whatever from the FBI, we're going to come by and talk to you. You know, they're like, oh, this is cool. You know, unless you're in trouble. Or it's a little no-knock raid at some point in the morning. And we usually knock. We don't just knock doors down. We're not quite, you know, we're like, hey, we're here. You know, I mean, that's the way the Bureau works. All right, we do not send emails. Matter of fact, I have a lot of agents, they don't even use email for the most part. Don't use links in an email. If you look at a link, and I don't care how great that link looks, do not use it. If it says go to wellsfargo.com and it says a link and it looks exactly like wellsfargo.com, do not click on it. Go up on your address bar and type in wellsfargo.com. Because it is very easy within the language of a link to write a redirect that's going to go someplace else that has nothing to do with what's written in that link. Because the link that's behind is what's actually going to, you know, cause it. So do not use links. All right? Websites, make sure you're secure. All right? Alternate browsers, you know, browsers are kind of it's kind of like cell phones. Everybody has a preference. Some people are like, well, I like Firefox, I like Chrome. Some people use some other crazy ones that are out there. I use some Linux browsers, if you're into that. There's lots of opportunities out there. But just try to use a different one than Microsoft Edge. And that's the new one in Windows 10. Or Internet Explorer. Here's the main reason why I'm going to tell you don't use Internet Explorer. Not that it's a bad virus or a bad browser. It's because it's on every computer. And I am an attacker. I can write a program that will attack every computer if I could hit Internet Explorer's browser. So that's what makes it more of a target. Because we know it's on every Windows computer. It's built into every Windows computer. All right. So here's the things here about data breaches. They're not going to go away. Data breaches for you as an individual, your company, are not going to go away. You're still going to run into them. And data breaches of other people that will affect you are going to continue. Things like Target aren't going away. A week before Target got hit, who got hit? Anybody remember? Neiman Marcus. You know why we forgot about Neiman Marcus? Because Target got hit. The problem we're having right now in retailers is retailers in general are operating on, let somebody else get hit. So now we have our credit cards with a chip in them. You know what that does you absolutely no good unless the retailers properly implement the technology. If you go up to a place and you still can swipe a card, I don't care what the technology is there are ways for me to defeat it. The purpose of the chip is two-factor authentication. In your corporate environments, if you are not using two-factor authentication, you better get there. Passwords are the weakest form of security. You've got to get to where you have a card and a code or something. You have to. And retailers are really slow to fully implement this as well. Malware's not going away, and it's really well written. There's some beautiful malware out there, and it's very well written. So please, don't think it's going to go away. Social media, we'll talk about that real quick too. Social media hacking. This is the most current, this is a large volume of the attacks we're seeing now are coming to you in social media. YouTube. Who can post something on YouTube? Anybody. So where's the security measures? There are none. What about Facebook? Who can post on Facebook? Everybody. You know, what about LinkedIn? Everybody. The problem with every social media site is that there are no restrictions on who can upload a video or a picture. I can very easily put a piece of malware inside a picture or a video. Really, really easily. All right? I could put a PDF document, a Adobe document, or a Word document up there, and all I have to do is get you to open it and you are infected. It's that easy. So we'll talk about that as well.
Doesn't
Yeah.
Facebook and LinkedIn have some kind of security of their own?
They do not. They protect their servers, but they're not protecting you. They'll make sure nothing gets into their network, but there's no virus scan. We can't even get internet providers to do it. Internet providers won't scan it because here's the problem. In the United States, if I am an internet provider, in order for me to accurately check your email for viruses, I would have to download your email, open your email, read your email, scan it, then repacket it and send it back. That means I've stored your email and I've read your email. How happy would you be with that if I told you every internet provider was reading and scanning your email? Yeah.
Not too happy.
Huh?
Not too happy.
Right. Privacy concerns will not allow most internet providers to get there. They will scan it now at an upper level, but look at the speeds we're dealing with now on the internet. Gigs. I mean, we're talking about gigabit per second coming across. Scanning this traffic is almost impossible. What we're now doing is we're allowing the infection to occur and we're scanning what the traffic does after it's infected you. That's your best detection method now. We accept that all of us have viruses. Every one of us, including me, have viruses on your computers. The question is what's that virus trying to do? What is it going, because is it going to try to steal something? Because that means it has to take it off. Is it trying to, when I try to connect to my corporate network, is it watching my connection? Is it logging all of my keystrokes? So that's really what we're looking at, is we want to monitor what software does once it's installed. Because you can install an app on a phone that is completely legitimate, but it has a malicious app built into it. You installed it. You chose to install it. It's not like it was installed as a piggyback. Because I understand how software works, but you may not understand it. So we have to be really aware of that part of it too. Is an app that you thought was good, or it turns out to be bad. And then government agencies. OPM is the best one I can tell you right about now. Office of Personnel Management affected all of the government workers and everybody who has been in the military and in the government. And I'm hardcore critical of the US government in some of the ways we've done business on this. Because what's happened is that a lot of US government agencies have said, well, I don't deal in classified data, so I'm not going to protect this data. And that's a huge mistake. And I'm telling it for you too. The data you have on your networks is not encrypted, but it's sensitive to you. We have to treat all of our data as sensitive, and government agencies have not done that. We're starting to pick it up. We'll see where we end up. President just appointed a federal chief information officer. Let's see what that does. I'm not a big fan of bureaucracy. I want to see somebody who does some action, so we'll see what happens. There's no way to really protect your computer. Let's first get down to that, okay? There is no software you can install that will make you 100% safe. The big part of this is to make yourself less of a target, to find out some ways to make yourself a little safer. Really, that's what it comes down to. Antivirus. The question was asked is how effective are antiviruses? Antivirus detection rates are between 15 and 20% of a virus. That's pretty low, all right? But I will still tell you to have antivirus. You still need to have an antivirus, because here's why. I'm a programmer. Hackers in general are programmers. We are lazy. I may write the first piece of code so that your antivirus won't detect it, but most antiviruses, the first virus I drop will download second and third viruses. Your antivirus will most likely pick up those second and third viruses. All right? That's where you typically get it. So if you get an antivirus alert, you're like, oh, I found a virus. You're not done. Even if you clean it, even if you disinfect it, you may have another virus that dropped the second virus. Now's the time to start thinking of, is it time to reload my computer, or is it time to restore from the image? Whatever your backup method is. Don't just think you're done. You probably have a second infection deeper down. All right? Network logs. At home, none of us are doing this. There's no way you're monitoring network logs. But think about it at home. How many computers do you have at home? 5. And I'm going to tell you that most of you are completely wrong if you say less than 10. Because everything on your home network now is everything. There are a lot of items at home that are on your network now. If you have any game devices, PS4s, PS3s, Xboxes, they're all connected to your network. Your security system probably is using your network as a backup. Your phones, tablets. There's a Wi-Fi enabled toilet now. Anyone have one? Probably not. But there's Wi-Fi enabled lights. Your heating, ventilation, air conditioning system may be connecting up now through your Wi-Fi once you have Wi-Fi. You may have a secure, video system. A lot of people use video systems that are connected up that way.
Water heater.
What?
Water heater.
Water heater, DirecTV, all your cable stuff. All of those devices are now on your network. So you probably have between 15 to 30 devices on your home network. Who's maintaining it? Nobody. Or your 15-year-old kid, right? And that's a huge problem. We are starting to see, and I think this is the future, we're starting to see some cloud-based security providers provide protection at the home. For $10 a month, they will provide you security for your network. I think it's the right future. Here's why. You don't have time to do your home security, right? You don't have time to sit there and watch your network for viruses. These guys have IT professionals that are out there. I think that's where we're going. All right, that's my prediction moving forward, is that you will find cloud-based IT security providers that will provide you, just like home security, like ADT, they will provide you home IT security for a cost. I think that's where we're going, all right? Users. Used to be in the old days, you would find out you had a virus because your computer slowed down. Remember those days? Or the pop-ups? Oh man, I got pop-ups, somebody's been somewhere. I'm gonna tell you right now, most modern viruses will make your computer faster. Here's why. What's the first thing a virus does when it gets on your computer? It turns off your antivirus. Have you checked to see if your antivirus is even running? No, most of us don't. But your antivirus is one of the things that slows down your network traffic because it's trying to scan all of your data. The virus just turned it off. The second thing it does is it turns off your firewall if it can, and then it turns off your automatic updates if you're in a Windows environment. Have you checked to see if your Windows is even updating itself anymore? Most of us don't check that either. We get the computer home, we do express settings, we say do automatic updates because it's recommended by Microsoft, and we move on, but you never check it again. We've got to make sure we're making sure virus is running, making sure you're checking for the automatic updates. And then third party and law enforcement. We do call, folks, we do. I can tell you I'm making these phone calls. I call a company a week, that is on my list. We make these phone calls, please don't ignore it. Local law enforcement could be the ones to make the call. Don't ignore the calls. We're trying to help you. We really are. We're trying to be reactive to you. So, updating your operating system. This is key. All right? Now, I'm going to say this with a caveat. I'm not saying go to the newest operating system. Somebody asked me, does that mean go to Windows 10? That's not what I'm saying. If you are on Windows 7, make sure your Windows 7 is updated. All right? Whatever operating system you are at, keep it updated. Let me give you another reason, though, caveat. Windows 10 will sometimes automatically install on your computer. I have seen this, I have seen it personally. where Windows is trying to jam it down your throat with Windows 10. You can deny it later and make it uninstall, but you're always going to have that problem. Microsoft is being very aggressive in their deployment of Windows 10. All right? Whatever operating system you use, keep it updated. All right? The other thing is, every software package you have, keep it updated. Every software package. Part of this I'm going to tell you though is reduce the software packages on your computers. If you're not using it, uninstall it. This is the same for your phones. My data keeps going over. I keep going over my data caps. And I'm like, what? I realized I had so many, and my kids the same way, have so many apps installed that the updates on the apps is killing me. Uninstall. Keep things uninstalled. If you're not using it, get rid of it. Use an antivirus. Keep it up to date. Yes, sir.
Have you ever heard of someone getting a phone call that says that they are from the Microsoft
Tech support.
tech support?
Do not believe that either. Microsoft has, I've never heard them do that either. If somebody calls, so yeah, it's good lead into that. If you get a phone call, period, of somebody saying, hey, can you access your computer because I'm important? Exactly. They need to give you a phone number to call back, first of all, like I will for the FBI. But they'll call you and say, I'm from Microsoft Tech Support. We've detected some malicious traffic coming from your computer. I need you to perform some commands for me. Are you at your computer? And it's very official sounding, right? And then you get to your computer and they'll say, I need you to click on this, click this, and read me what you see. You're giving away your remote RDP key is what it's called. You are giving away remote access to your computer. First thing is on a network, a corporate network, no one should have the rights to view that RDP key except administrators. First off. All right? On a home network, you don't give that access to nobody. Microsoft, I have never had Microsoft officially give me a call, and I've been in the market a long time. That's just not, no businesses have been doing that. They may say, if they say you have a virus, that's maybe a little different. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. But I'm not asking for access to your system. So do not give anybody access to your system. I don't care how official they sound. Even me, I don't want access to your system. Good God.
We've taken reports on that where people will come
Yeah.
in and it's a scam, but
Yeah.
that's what they tell them. They give them remote access.
Yep.
They say, we can take care of it, we can clean your virus from here, and they say, all the information.
The dead calls are, people don't call out of the blue. That's just not the way of business nowadays, right? So please be aware of that. Run your antivirus, run it regularly. Once a week maybe, do a full scan of your system. Most of the scans that are running are express scans. You need to run full scans of all of your hard drive, because there may be a file deeper down in your hard drive. Usually it's going to be in like your temp user folder or something like that you've downloaded along the way, or your download folder. Do a complete scan. And uninstalling things. Firewall. Encrypting your hard drive. If you travel a lot, laptops especially, encrypt it. All right? We've seen a ton of cases where people have gotten they've gotten their laptops taken away for a very short period of time, and when they got it back, they found the laptop had been tampered with. All right? If you travel a lot, you need to either have a laptop you only use for travel and then you dump it, or you have one that is encrypting the hard drive, encrypted. This is also for mobile phones and stuff. If you have, so for iPhones automatically encrypt your data when you put in a PIN, automatically. Android is your choice to encrypt it. And I would suggest you encrypt your data. Keep your data encrypted. All right? It's a protection for you. Yes, sir.
So if you encrypt your hard drive, will that protect you from ransomware?
No, they'll encrypt the encryption. It's kind of cute. So you get double encryption over, then trying to break it's absolutely impossible. Now I have no idea what I'm even looking at anymore. So, and saving your documents on an external drive. Passwords. What's the most common password on the internet? That was 2 years ago. Last year was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Either way, do not use easily guessed passwords. About 75% of what we see are because people have weak or exploited passwords. Okay, so you think, oh, okay, I'm going to be cute. I'm going to use my kids' names. I can guarantee you, with a little bit of work, I can find every one of your kids' names and your pet names. Social media or someplace else, I can do an internet search on any one of you, and all I need is your name and where you live, the city. Intellius will let me hit any one of you for about $5. All right? And that gives me all your kids' names too, so just letting you know. So kids' names are the most common second group of passwords. The next one is what you like. Football, baseball. People say football number 1, 2, 3. Because that's the other thing we do is we need an 8-character password. Let's see, Mary, #1, 2, 3. That's what we all end up doing to get to the 8 characters. That's too easy to guess. I have password cracking programs that I can run against you, and I could probably run 100,000 passwords in a few minutes. And I have a list of all the most common passwords. It's that easy to break. Make your passwords difficult. I suggest using a password manager. All right, there are 3 versions of password managers. There's a cloud-based versions. These are companies like LastPass, something like that. There is a phone-based one, things like Keeper, you can download to your phone. There is the paper-based one, which is called the Notebook from whatever, where you have a notebook and you're writing username and passwords in it. It works. If you keep that with you, it's just as secure as anything else. I still do it sometimes. All right, but keep it with you. Don't leave it around. You don't leave it under your keyboard. I did the Houston Astros case. I'll get right to you. I'm running out of time too, so Houston Astros case. Houston Astros case came down to a bad password. If you didn't know the case, St. Louis Cardinals employee left St. Louis, came to Houston as an employee, but he used the same password into the scouting database in Houston that he used in St. Louis. And another St. Louis employee was able to log into the Houston Astros scouting database and take data. Do not use the same passwords. Not for all websites at all. The second thing is complexity of passwords. If you have an 8-character password, add 4 to whatever the minimum password is, add 4. If it's 8, go to 12. If it's 12, go to 16. Adding complexity, adding the number of extra passwords, actually, even if you did password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is harder to guess than password 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2. Because most hackers are not going to think you went further into the character set. Expand your passwords. Use bigger passwords. You had a question?
I've heard that a password catalog provides particularly juicy one-stop shopping to your passwords.
It depends, like if you're talking about a web-based one.
Any of them.
Yes and no. In a cloud-based environment, LastPass, I use LastPass, and here's why. LastPass, their whole corporate environment is based upon protecting my data. If they don't protect my data, they are out of business. They will protect my data better than I will protect my own. A cloud-based corporation whose entire business model is built on safety and security, they're going to make sure it's safe and it's secure. LastPass got hit last year, lost the master passwords, and let me know within an hour that they'd lost the master passwords and said change your password. I didn't lose any data. So they're on top of it. Is it a possibility? Yeah. Is it a risk? Everything's a risk.
It just seems like it's the standard Microsoft problem, which is Microsoft is such a big market that it's worth really trying hard to attack. Whereas if you keep your own catalog, you're a onesie.
You're correct, but again, they also have a full suite of IT security people that you ain't got. And they've got the highest level of technology keeping your stuff safe. So, and that's what I'm saying. It's going to come down to like the stock market. What do you feel more at risk at? Do you feel safer? Like I said, I know some people, they don't paper. Some people take their money and they put it underneath their mattress. Whatever you're safe, feel safest.
And that got me thinking, it's like everything's on my computer, passwords, bank accounts, passwords, social security, all that information there. If they get my password and they go to my bank account, is the bank's, who's responsible for refunding that money? You are?
That's an interesting question, because if you logged
Get away
in,
from your topic too much.
if you logged in,
Well,
if they use your account to log in, they can make the case that you are responsible. Years ago, Apple lost a whole bunch of, this was the celebrities lost a whole bunch of nude photos, and everybody blamed Apple. And Apple was able to prove it, they did not lose it. People had stolen their passwords to a lot of these celebrities and had logged in and stolen these pictures from these people. And Apple said, Apple won the lawsuit. So if banks, right now banks have been pretty cool about it, but if a bank says, you logged in, you may have a problem. So it's your login.
So banking online would not be good.
No, banking online, again, it depends on, don't keep your password on your computer that you're using to log in on.
But you gotta log in, so it's gonna be on there because your computer doesn't store that
No,
information.
not unless you let it store the information.
I'm not talking about every time you get on the, and I've been told every time you hit something, you do something. it takes your computer.
There are some repositories, but passwords are not, so you're typing it in, so you hit the website, you type it in.
Okay.
There's not a local storage on it. Unless you have a keylogger, somebody's logging every keystroke,
Yeah.
then you're in trouble anyways, because, but most of the time, Your password is not stored locally.
Okay.
When you're on a web screen and you're typing in your
When you go
password,
to whatever bank it is
Right.
and log in, you're on there.
it is in their memory, and when you reboot, it's out of your memory as well.
Okay, all right. But they can still get it beforehand.
If they have a keylogger.
I'm just thinking out loud, that's all.
If you have if somebody has installed a virus on your computer that's
Yeah.
logging your traffic,
They're trying-
you're done. I mean, you're in trouble there. All right, so let's go forward pretty quick. Social media. Watch your friends. Seriously, watch your friends. Go through your friends. Clean them out every so often. I tell this to kids all the time. I spoke at one of the A-Leaf High School recently, and I was like, it's okay to not be friends with somebody on Facebook and be their friend in real life. And it's the same with all adults as well. If somebody's like crazy online, some people get online and they lose their minds. Defriend them, especially if they're posting some crazy stuff. I have to give up my password to my employer. I have to give it up to them every year if they request it. All right. Some employers are requesting that now. Companies are now checking your Facebook in order for jobs and stuff. We talk a lot to high school kids about what you post could affect your ability to get into some colleges, and it can affect you as an adult getting to another employer. So be aware of what you're posting and what other people are posting to you. I don't know if you heard last night, ESPN fired Kurt Schilling.
Yes.
Because he liked and reposted a thing about transgender relationships, and he got fired for it. That's what can happen, especially in today's environment, all right? Reposting something could get you in trouble. It gets us in trouble if let's say I was a Trump fan, I'm just saying if I was a Trump fan and I reposted a Trump posting, I have posted it to my wall, and therefore I could get fired for that because of whatever that stupid act is. But anyways, all right, how many of you heard DEF CON? DEF CON is an annual hacker convention. Hackers go out to Las Vegas and learn how to be better hackers. And it's a lot of fun. I haven't got to go yet. I'm hoping to go this year. But the first thing they do, first they play Spot the FBI people. So now we actually wear a name tag saying we're FBI. That game got a hold. The second thing they do is they take the hotel Wi-Fi and they put it up on, this is a wall, like in an auditorium, 18 feet tall, I think is what this one was. And they put every person who logs into the hotel Wi-Fi, their username and their password and what website they're on. It's on the hotel Wi-Fi. You put it public. They're not breaking the law, but they call you sheep. Now that should tell you enough about what public Wi-Fi is. If you use public Wi-Fi, a hacker thinks you're sheep. That's a bad thing, right? Do not access personal or corporate information on public Wi-Fi. Do not access personal. Do not do banking from Starbucks. I forgot to change the color on this. I have to remember that. Consider using a personal hotspot. A lot of the companies will give you a personal hotspot. Yeah, it's going to use your data, but it's a lot safer than this. Because do you see the device down here in the bottom left? That's called a Pineapple. This is a device you can buy, and I can walk into any environment, and I can turn it on and plug it in, and it assumes the identity of every Wi-Fi that I can reach. From that moment on, all Wi-Fi within range will go to that before it goes to the internet. And I can plug into that with a laptop and monitor all your traffic. It intercepts it all. Those are not that uncommon. And they're not illegal in the United States. All right? So seriously, do not use public Wi-Fi for things that are sensitive. Do not log into corporate environments. I'm trained as a certified ethical hacker. And one of the guys that trained me told me a story where he went to a company and he signed an agreement saying, I'm going to break into your network. And the company's like, you'll never break into our network, and they're posturing and talking all this smack. He walks outside and he sees a heating, ventilation, air conditioning truck driving away after doing some work. He gets in his car, follows them, and they go around the corner to Starbucks. And he's like, come on. One of the guys reaches in, pulls out a laptop, he goes, yes, I have it. He runs in, sets up his Pineapple on a desk, and goes and stands in line, and comes back, and they'd logged into the Pineapple and logged into the corporate network, and he now had a login to the corporate network. Within an hour, he called the CIO and says, I'm in your network. And the CIO goes, no, there's no way. He goes, here's your password, and he reads off his password on the phone. And do you have a file called blah, 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 in an Excel spreadsheet called blah, blah, blah in your, yes, let's talk. It's that easy. All I need to get, once I'm in your network, I have to accelerate my privileges. There's a ton of ways to do it once I'm in. One login is all I need, all right? So do not give it to them. Private IPs, private homes. Where's your password written on your AT&T box, your Comcast box? On the side of the box. Your password is written on the side of the box, so you can, remember it. Have you ever changed that password? No. Most of you have not. You can. You know that? You can log into that and change that password. I would highly suggest you do. First thing is that, so my child porn case. Get a phone call saying somebody had hit a child porn site, and they give us an IP address, a network address, and we run it through Verizon. We get a subpoena, Verizon supplies us the name, and it's an 80-year-old man and his 79-year-old wife. Knowing from child porn cases, that's not the typical MO for a child porn case, not typical. So we have to run it down. So we go and show up at this house, and these are the sweetest people ever, the lady's giving us cookies, the whole thing. And we say, do you have a computer? She goes, yeah, but it hasn't been on in 6 months because it's for my grandkids. Okay. Well, we know the guy's been online within the last 24 hours, we know. So we're looking, we check the computer, verify, nope, hadn't been on in 6 months, blow the dust off. And so we're talking to him, and they're saying, oh, well, the next door neighbor comes over every so often and does odd jobs for me. We run him, he's a pedophile. He is using their network to access and do child porn. All right? Who looks at the side of your box when they come in and do work in your house? Do you ever watch them? No, we don't. We tell them to go, the AT&T person could be the pedophile. The person coming to check the box. Change your passwords. Google is your friend. Here's what I'll tell you. Get the model number for the particular device. Go to Google, say, how do I change password on this model device? They'll tell you how to do it. All right? Some other things. Turn off your broadcast SSID. Don't broadcast your Wi-Fi name. You ever seen how sometimes you'll pop up and, there's no Wi-Fi. But if you can go in and you can type in the SSID, you can actually hit a Wi-Fi. You're not broadcasting. It goes invisible. Do that. All right? Turn it off when not in use. This is your biggest problem on smartphones. If this screen pops up and you say accept at the bottom, and that software is then used to delete everything on your hard drive, your storage of your phone, you have no legal recourse. This is a contract, folks. You have accepted a contract when you accept they're doing this to your computer, your phone. Whatever it does to your storage, modify and delete is what it says. If you said okay, and they delete everything on your phone, you said it was okay. That's a contract. Be careful. This is Android security. Let me tell you, people ask me, what's Android security? That. They expect you to read all the junk and to make a determination if you want to install the software. That's their security. They expect you to know. Apple, at the very least, in order for somebody to put an application in Apple, you have to have 5 guys in the closet who agree to put that on the Apple Store. So there's a security built into that. They still have some malicious apps. All right? But this is Android security. Read. So be very careful of that. I've heard, they want to change it so these are toggleable in Android. So that if this comes up, you can say, well, I don't want to give them access to my storage, and you can uncheck that. And then the software has to decide if it will continue to install or not. But we ain't seen it yet, so understand that. Treat it like a computer, please. It is a computer, folks. Treat it the same way. Protect the data that's on there. Delete your text messages, back it up. Don't share it with others. What are you downloading? I go to Sweet Tomatoes every so often, and after I've had my fill of everything, I'm kind of sitting there. This lady walks in, and I feel bad. My kids are all grown. Actually, I don't feel bad. I kind of giggling. Small women with small children. But she came in. She was having a bad day. This 5-year-old was losing it because he didn't want soup and salad, right? He wanted hamburgers and fries. So she finally pulls out her tablet, logs it in, and stuffs it in this kid's hands, and she goes off to the salad bar. And this kid starts downloading like 8 apps in like 2 minutes. Bam, 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 downloading apps. Is any of it getting removed? No. Do you know what was installed when you came back? No. That's the problem with kids, is if you're going to give kids your phone or your laptop or whatever, they're going to install whatever they want, and you may get yourself in trouble. So, Nigerian prince needs money. Where's my checkbook? Strengthening passwords, handling. We're going to go through this pretty quick. The biggest thing is reduce the places your information is stored. All right? If something does happen, this is where your first stop. Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3.gov. This is for if you lose $500, if you lose $1,000. These are the people you call. Because if you call me, I'll help you, but I can't open a case. The Bureau, this is not my rule, this is U.S. Attorney does not let us open anything unless it's $250,000 or more. That's their rules, they're the prosecutors. All right? But Internet Crime Complaint Center will take any complaint you have, no matter how small. IC3.gov. All right? Because what's going to happen is let's say you lost $1,000, and you and 250 other people lost $1,000 to the same guy. Now we have a case. We've built enough information to go after one person, and that's what this is what we're trying to do, is gather that data. All right. So please, IC3 is where you start, and then this is your local group. This is what allows me to come out and play, InfraGard. If you're in a corporation, even if you're self-employed, InfraGard.org, it's individual. This is your membership. If you leave your company and go someplace else, it follows you. This is not, it's not about the corporation you're in. This follows you. It's a membership. It's free. I say free, real free. All right, 18 or older, U.S. citizen. You'll have to pass a basic criminal check. InfraGard.org. What's cool about this is that it lets us communicate amongst each other, amongst cleared members, as to kind of what's going on within the environment. And so InfraGard, we send out a lot of warnings about what's going on. And that's the first place we send it. The other thing is you can go in, you can request speakers, like me. I use InfraGard for a lot of these presentations. This is my cover as to who I task my time to. But InfraGard. Questions? Yes,
I
sir.
want to get a new computer system and make sure it's clean and start from scratch. If I contact InfraGard, would they help me find a
We typically
consultant to do this?
We typically don't refer that stuff. I would tell you, I would tell you to actually, use something like Best Buy would be fantastic for that. For a basic computer use, something like that works. For a brand new computer install, a company like that, there's local companies. Referrals are a huge part of that. Who do you know that does computer stuff? Talk to them. Say, hey, do you know somebody local that does computer installs? You may find a kid that'll do it for you. Sometimes that's pretty darn good. High schools aren't a bad place to go sometimes. Checking out the IT departments in high schools. They may have kids there that want to practice installing a computer. You may just want a free install. It's kind of like going to the cosmetology thing for stuff. You get some free haircuts.
Colleges.
Yes, sir.
How do we get a copy of your presentation? There were some.
I provided Larry a copy. So if he doesn't give it to you, call the FBI, let me know, I'll give it to you. So Harris County Sheriff's gave some great handouts over here. I would encourage you to partake. Beyond that, please be safe. Got another question?
Does the company have an interface with OWASP, Open Web Application Security?
Yes, usually through Homeland Security. What's kind of interesting is the job I'm doing here today is actually Homeland Security, but we're working with them a lot through InfraGard because they don't have the bodies and they don't have the technical bodies, and they realize I can talk, so they throw me to the wolves, which is cool. I'm being pimped out. So that's really what we're doing, is trying to get ahead of the game. So yeah, Homeland Security works through OWASP. Yes, sir.
When you get ready to host your one-day training, if you need a place to host it, I can make available.
Okay, I'm working with the RCFL, the East Houston Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory right now, but their area is small. So yeah, I will. I'll get a card from you, and then we'll go from there. Because I'm kind of in an argument with the powers that be, because they're like, well, they do it at headquarters. That's not the answer. I want a traveling road show. I want one that we can go out, and I've told them I'm a certified instructor for the Bureau. You send me back to headquarters. I'll steal from whoever I got to steal from. I have local HPD officers that work at the computer crimes that are willing to work with me. I'll make it. I'll create anything from scratch if I have to. But they're trying to kind of throw a couple. So once we get through this current crisis of the weather, I'm going to go beat someone up. Time to use my football skills.
Anybody else?
All right, cool.